And it's on. We're on here. The Duane-o Podcast is born. And I indeed him, Duaneo, also known as Dwayne Neville. Welcome to the first ever podcast. We're coming to you from sunny Byron Bay here on a Saturday afternoon. And if you're listening to this on Anchor FM /Duane-o, you can also see it on the YouTube page. There should be a link there for the YouTube page. So just head on there, or also follow on the Instagram account. The link should be in the bio there. And then if you're watching this, of course, on YouTube, if you want to just listen to the audio, head over to Anchor FM /Duane-o. What a start, and what a perfect way to start off the podcast with none other than the pest, the special guest, Michael Shaw, who's got every little finger and toe in this town of Byron Bay since he's been back from 14 years that you were in China teaching?
It was 12 years. I taught for about 3 years of that, and then we got into a few other ventures over there. But yes, I've been back now for about 18 months.
So basically, school life has been a part of you from pretty much, because, you know, you graduated with me at Byron High back in 2003. But that's when, so just to let the viewers know, me and my Shori, not only we call the footy during the winters, but we go way back to about year 7, year 8 at Byron Bay High. And so ever since about year 12 in the formal, that was probably the last I saw you until about a year or two ago. And then you've been back at school, so to speak.
Yes, I've been back at school with you as a bloody lead teacher. So you led me astray a little bit, but no, it's been good to be back and go on all these adventures with you. I do miss it. So it's good to be able to get on here and do something that's a little bit related and a bit of fun, a bit of media stuff. Absolutely.
So as I just said, you've got every little finger and toe. You haven't, we call you the pest, but because you're always around. Like, I'm just wondering if you're going to come through this door and tuck me in bed at night, be my babysitter. It's getting to that point. But I was just speaking another mutual friend of ours, Benny Ahern, out at at Bella Porto the other week, and it's just
Suffolk Park out of Byron Bay FC.
Yeah, he's a captain, a premiership winning captain for Byron Bay FC. But it made me iterate that it just sets a reminder of how busy you are and how much involved you are in the community. Because it's like, oh, well, sure, he's doing this. He's doing plans for this, and we're going to do this, and he wants to do that. Sure, he's doing this. So run it off. You're like the Homer Simpson of Byron Bay. You know that when he has all the hats. All the hats, as in, like, well, not just because you like a drink and a gamble.
I'm a fat alcoholic drunk as well.
But think of it as in the way of Uber driver, passion fruit farmer, selling passion fruit, calling the footy, tradie. What else am I missing here, mate?
I'm on the board down at the Byron Bay Youth Services.
Yep, we'll have a chat about that as well.
I volunteer there as well with the youth. And then we've just founded this distribution company for fitness products.
Yep.
So that's our involvement with Ben Ahern at Byron Bay FC.
Of course.
So we're launching this product. I just got off the phone with Customs. They're chasing a bit more money off me for GST and import taxes. But yeah, we've got a new fitness product from America, and we've purchased the exclusive distribution rights to it. It's called Inertia Wave.
You were telling me a bit. Tell me a bit about it every couple of weeks. And you're saying you're having trouble with customs at the moment. Is that to do with the coronavirus as such, and just it's hard to get anything anywhere?
It was just slower than normal. So we were expecting a week or so, but it's taken about 3 weeks. But it's just allowed us to get the launch a bit more prepared. It's not going to affect our sales or anything. So it's probably a good thing in the end.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's always been the norm. Just, I wanted to kick this thing off a couple of weeks ago, but this webcam that's showing up pretty faces. That was even held up for that came from Melbourne, and it's just taken a week or two. So because everything's gone by road. So I'm actually quite.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because they're not even flying planes in the sky to do freight, which is makes you wonder about. That should be still how planes to fly to get stuff from A to B, and especially at a time like this.
Yes. Yeah, it has slowed us down, but, I think it allows you to stop and, smell the roses a bit and get your ducks in order a little bit more. I think it's been good for me. And that's one of these great things about this coronavirus, the COVID-19. or the Wuhan virus. I've got a good story about Wuhan, actually, that I'll tell you later. But yeah, it let us get our prepare better for the launch of our company, and maybe let you have some good podcast ideas in the meantime too. So it's not too much polywaffle coming out of your mouth all the time.
No. Well, the podcast idea has been on the fence for quite some time. It's just now that it's come to fruition. But now all the footy commentary stuff has been put on the shelf for the time being. So need to keep active. Need to keep so we don't rust out and be forgotten. So we're out there and obviously we're big footy fans, and that's how we know calling the footy. But we talk about other stuff too, and like stuff that's important. So like the coronavirus. So when this all kicked off, so you had all your ducks in a row, like selling passion fruit and obviously the footy, and then your Uber driving, and so that would have all come to a screeching halt, no doubt. So how else does this affect you, man? Like what's
it was scary at the start. It's like,
certainly.
Oh shit, I've got a few overheads here. If this tap just turns off and there's no income coming in, then I'm in a bit of a pickle. We've just put deposit on a house.
Yeah.
I've got car repayments. I've got rent. I've got credit card bills and this and that. So I panicked, and I went out and applying for jobs, and which was fine. And then I eventually got them. But then also JobKeepers come in, so that's helped me. And actually, markets are starting to come back, and I think we're in a better. And now it allowed me to. I started this new company, Big Wave Fitness. Shout out to Gene Burks, Jamie Pierce, who are the other two directors in the company.
Yeah.
Because of coronavirus, so so it was good. It got me out of a bit of a rut. To be honest, I didn't like the Uber driving too much, and I was doing it too much. So now I've pivoted in another direction. So I like it. And I think same with you. It's going to be great because I reckon there's going to be a lot of online streaming. We might be able to call more footy games.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, it does. I mean, I'm always someone that says shit happens for a reason. It's always the way, for better or worse. And even if you get to the end game being where you're supposed to be, and I've been telling my partner Stephanie this for the whole time. It's like, it ain't going to be an easy road. It never is. But the end game is where you're meant to be, and more times than not, it's great. And I knew, and I sort of had deep down feeling that would be the case. And so, and I even had in private discussions with you about the chance of doing remote streaming, but how that was going to be possible, I do not know. And it was only until about a month ago when the first game, which I think was actually the first sport in the entire world. I think UFC might have pipped it. I'm not sure. It's that same weekend. Korean football came on, and Simon Hill. I could see ISIS and that just dug it in just to make sure you're behaving yourself. We haven't been chucked off yet, ISIS.
She doesn't want her name besmirched.
Okay, well, she's safe here on the Duane-o Podcast. But to go back to what I was saying about watching the Korean football, Simon Hill.
Sorry, just for the people at home, ISIS, I'm not housing a terrorist organisation in my living room. ISIS is my wife's name.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
it's the ancient Greek goddess, not the other ISIS.
Yeah, good point. Good point to make. But anyway, the point I was trying to make was more or less. I noticed a very, familiar voice on the microphone. It was Simon Hill, and Simon calling this game. I said, "Well, how the fuck is he calling this game, South Korea?" And it turns out he did it all from his on his couch with nothing more than a MacBook and a pair of these things. And so I'm thinking, shit, I got to find out how he's done this. And so I did a bit of stalking on his Twitter feed, and then I found out that had this program, pitched it already, and it looks like it could be a very distinct possibility that, so as you said, like, whilst it's a very unfortunate thing overall, and unfortunately a lot of people have succumbed to this, but it has created new ideas to do these podcasts. And then you look at like Powderfinger doing their live stream last week, and then and it's a new way. It's opening up people's minds to these new technologies. And so when there's a will, there's a way.
You just send a link into the group chat with the boys that some of the comps down Newcastle way or something, looking to live stream and maybe crowdfunding?
Yeah, well, I mean, just them.
Sales?
Well, I think that was for the rugby in particular,
Okay.
but that's the way a lot of it's going, like paying paid subscription and bringing it all to the clubs. That's because even when they're talking about maybe in July, August, where a lot of these clubs are going to, a lot of these games, you're only going to allow maybe no more than 100 at a ground, and then even on a very quiet game when it's say last versus second last in the competition, you still get like your loyal supporters, which is maybe 300 to 500. So what are you going to do? You're going to deny the other 200 or 300 that can't get in. So people want to watch their team play, and they'll, they understand the dynamics of the whole thing to know that this is not going to work being at the game, and they understand why. But I just say we don't deny these people that want to watch their team play, and with the technology today, I'm sure they'll be able to pay for it. I mean, probably in the ideal world, you wouldn't charge a pay-per-view price for it, but at the same time, desperate times, desperate measures, and that's, I think, the best way to go about it.
Could you not just charge? Could you charge $6? The gate tickets.
That's a normal gate fee, yeah.
So people would pay that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
see,
that's.
I just paid $15 a month to get my KO subscription back on, which is very cheap. I got that cheap deal because I'm a Telstra package.
Yeah.
But so if NRRL could manage to, which is the Northern Rivers Regional Rugby League for the unwashed, if they could manage to charge $6 a game and KO's only charging $15 a month, that's a bloody success story, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it's. I just think it's a benefit if they're considering playing. And I'm not just dunking NRRL on this. I'm talking about sports as a whole. You're only going to be capped at 100 people. You get that's 600 people. That's $600. So you got to look at it, and like us as announcers, we're not into this to make a buck. So we basically just knock someone over there. We're not into this to make a buck. We know that the clubs are the livelihood of that, and we'd be happy to see all that money get passed on to the clubs, and that's how it should be.
Yep. They're still going to have costs. You're still going to have video camera operators at the fields and stuff. So obviously,
yeah. Well, I mean, and that's why I had the idea of like, shit, if we can call someone from home, we're not having a trouble. Because I know with our travels, what we did last year, like I remember that famous game we did between Northern United and Kyogle. I had to start my day up at the north end of Gold Coast. That's a 2.5 hour drive to Kyogle, then to come back to Byron Bay, and then the week after that we're back at Kyogle, where again I this time I had to go from the north end of Gold Coast back out to Kyogle. So it was, and then back out to Northern Gold Coast, then get on a plane to Sydney to go to a concert the following night. So,
I'm normally breaking land speed records coming back in the bundle farmers markets.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. So, but now with this technology, you'd think that this would be something that's deemed to be possible, and it will take the travel component out, the travel costs out of it as well.
But then how are you going to spill hot chips and gravy down your shirt if you're just at home and can't go to the canteen?
Oh, mate,
how are you going to know which clubhouse has the best pie?
Oh, mate, well, it's funny you mentioned that. I'm going to hold you. I'm going to hold you. So funny you mentioned that. I've got a little something here to actually share with you. So as well as being a have all your multi hats, you've probably got more hats than this lot up there, just in jobs in Byron Bay and dipping your toes into everything. You're also a bit of a multitasker when you're on the job and you're talking about these pies. I think you sort of know what's coming. So I'll just share you. So if you're listening to this on Anchor, you're probably not going to be able to see this video, but we'll just give you an illustration of it. So this was out at Casino last year. Me and Shorey did this semi-final last year, and I'm just going to play a little bit of that. So there'll be obviously some commentary. So we'll just write it through and then just see what we all think.
Chance to give Shorey here, have a chance.
Nice dance, Shorey. Nice little
delicious casino pie from the canteen. Get it into you, son.
What the fuck's go with that?
So we get back to live action, short side, play there.
That's a Byron Bay tie-dye shirt.
In defence.
Who's that?
So this is going to be Lachlan West. He's going to be held down in the second phase. Good tackle there by Dan Ross.
Chomp it down, short.
And so that's going to be a penalty given it. I think he was just holding too long there in the tackle there, Shorey. So this will be a chance now for the Casino Cougars.
It's really got the crowd back into it. They know what's on the line here, and they're lifting now. Really give it a piggyback down the field. I'm going to into point.
Well,
So
there's a few things there. One thing is that shirt is a tie-dye shirt, which is very Byron and Northern Rivers. Another thing, I did inflate in size a little bit during that last rugby league season because driving an Uber and calling footy, eating pies and drinking with you at the Sun Bistro is not great for your physique, which is.
Well, can I just say, you're saying that's a very Byron shirt. Is that your subtle way of keeping the Red Devils right here in your heart? Because you're wearing basically, wearing a Byron Bay Red Devils hat whilst you're putting the cans on before a game is, not that inconspicuous. So I guess you're keeping Byron at heart there. But, nice juggling act with that pie, because I should iterate with those pies at Casino Cougars that when you buy, only eat them when you're about 20 or 30 minutes away, ready to eat them. But you calling the game, chomping down, fucking, go like, only someone that's got as many hats as you have that's had their fingers and no pun intended pies can do something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm running from one market to that down there, and there's no time for lunch, and you're running on empty and might be slightly hungover and need a bit of sustenance and sleep deprived. 4 o'clock market. So yeah, there's a bit going on. But the funny thing is, with these Zoom meetings and stuff like that, I never drank a beer while commentating, and I have been in a couple of Zoom meetings where I put a beer in a mug and drink it. But this is not one of them. So I'm a true professional when working with you, Duane.
Yeah, well, you are a true professional. That's why I've got you first on. So, more or less, you're speaking about the markets before. So, you said you bump into all kinds of, the people in the know in Byron Bay and obviously in the Gold Coast. Who are some of the people that you've bumped into and you sold a bag of passion fruit to?
I sold a bag of passion fruit to a lady from a band today who was meant to be at Blues Festival. The Hussey Hicks.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, Hussey Hicks. So she was really cool.
Yeah.
Sold a bag of passion fruit to who's the big bruiser from the Sydney Swans? Barry Hall.
Barry Hall. That's right. You try to tell. I remember you sent me a message. You say that he's shit and Paul Gallen's great. Like, if you knew me personally, that would be bullshit.
Yeah.
I was cheering Barry Hall on every day of the week against Paul Gallen. So.
No, it's just I stir you up. I was just stirring you up then. It's one of my favourite pastimes.
Yeah. So what about your best friend Todd Carney? Have you sold him a bag of passion fruit yet?
Well, actually, Todd Carney, he's been a great guy. We're actually working with him to try to secure him to be an Inertia Wave ambassador. Yep. So for our fitness product. So we've had several discussions. Nothing's concrete yet. Shout out to Toddy if you're listening. But
we need to get him on.
Really good.
Putting in a good word. Get him on here.
I think we could organise that. You might need to get a bit more of a following, so we're not wasting his time. But he'd like to. He might have a few things to promote.
I'd love to because we did have the opportunity to actually interview Todd last year, and that's when I first had my first dealing with him, and I could just recall how much of a stand-up bloke he really is, and he really does get a bad rap in the papers. And when you actually when you see how the mainstream media these days post stuff and post shit on up online and tell people to buy it, I've always been suspicious how you don't always believe everything the media tells you, and that was one of those things. Because he's had a bad rap, and then and it was a double-pronged sword when it having the pleasure to interview him last year with 5 minutes notice. And then I recall that you and I did the game the following week in Byron, and then he came up to us and said, g'day, loving you guys' work and stuff. And that's, that's the qualities you don't read about or see in the mainstream press. And then the other end of the sword was actually reading his book, which I've only just finished. I've just been plucking away.
Oh, you have? Good.
And
I'm bad. I bought it, but I haven't finished it.
That's sort of how I've just chopped and
changed. Too much
changed.
Twitter and Instagram for me.
I know. I'm not much of a reader these days, but I gave that a go.
What is the title of his book?
What was it?
Do you remember the title of the book?
Oh shit, I don't remember. I could tell you, I've got it.
But anyway, go check
right
it
about
out.
2
You're out there
feet.
listening. You want a good rugby league book?
Oh, it's probably sitting 2 feet in front of me in one of my drawers here. But
and on that, with my work with the youth services, I reached out to him, and we work with at-risk youths in the Shire. And I reached out to him if he would be willing to come and give some of his time to chat to the boys and give them a session. And he said, absolutely, put his hand right up. I know he does a lot of work trying to raise money for the Breast Cancer Foundation and stuff as well. And he's doing a lot with some of the young kids at the club. And, I just know from talking to the boys, everyone loves having him at the club. And so it's a good addition
absolute
to the town.
Champion. I mean, I think I could sort of forgive him for... it was actually his last game, and this was in the book too, when he was playing for the Sharks. Being a die Brisbane supporter as I am, I was up there and he had the game of his life, and didn't I know it too, because Brisbane were winning 24-0. This was back in 2014. They were winning 24-0, and then he had the absolute game of his life, and then somehow, 24-0 with about 30 minutes left in the game, mind you, and he just had the game of his life, and just somehow Broncos lost it by 2. And and I was cursing his name on the way back on the train back to the Gold Coast. So I was still,
Is there a database? How do you watch old NRL games?
Oh, I think you got to go through NRL. I mean, KO has a bunch of them, but to just watch it whatever you want, I think you got to go through NRL.com and sign up for an account or something. But
do they have a paywall on that app?
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they wouldn't let that out for free. I wouldn't think so.
No, you wouldn't think so. Yeah. Okay, cool.
So, going back to the coronavirus as such, so we could start knowing that things are starting to free up a bit now, with the footy, first weekend of the footy back on, and my TAB accounts now got a good windfall after last night of the 2 games.
Oh, you did?
Two same-leg multis getting up in 5 legs each, so can't complain about that. But so we're slowly getting away from the Korean soccer, the hot dog eating, and the mud wrestling, whatever that's on, and we're getting back into the footy and stuff. And so you can kind of sense that things are getting a little bit back to normal. But fucking hell, man, I would love it if those Queensland borders would just open up and just let people, trade and get a boost in tourism. I mean, obviously I've got a personal stake with a partner living over there and not being able to get up there, but it's getting ridiculous now that, I remember that Gladys, our Premier, Gladys Berejiklian, said a couple of weeks ago that we could be flying to Auckland before we'd be allowed to fly to Brisbane, and I just laughed. I thought, that's a funny joke, but that's starting to look like it's reality of the situation that that even in Queensland, in New South Wales, as of this coming weekend, you can travel wherever you like in New South. So that means someone from the Gold Coast can travel to Albury, which is down the New South Wales Victoria border, which is 1,800 kilometres, but they've got a restriction where you can't even go from Gold Coast to Sunshine Coast. Yeah.
Just for context, it's now 2:54 Saturday, May the 30th.
Yeah.
The Warriors and Dragons are about to kick off in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
But see, the funny thing is, because I do all these markets in the Gold Coast area, I crossed the border the first day it was locked down. And so nothing's changed for me. I've crossed the border several times a week and have. So, yeah, I've just been dealing with it. And it's funny, what I reckon come out in the coronavirus is who follows all the rules and who doesn't. And there's a different group of people. That's why I call you Bubble Boy, because now I reckon you're going to be stuck in that bubble in there for a while, not being away from the corona. Have you downloaded the app on your phone?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do it because
Because he's good.
I do it. No, I do it because I with my mother.
family.
That's pretty much the only
that
reason
makes
why
sense.
I've got it. I mean,
Okay.
I put the concern on all that bullshit aside, and like anything that I've done for this virus is for her, basically, because it's at the end of the day, this virus is more or less just as I said, it takes on the older people and people that have all these illnesses and stuff, and so I've not been too concerned as such. If I was to get, I mean, it wouldn't be fun, but it's all about protecting the the other important people in your life.
Certainly. Yeah, it's fair enough. Yeah, I think so. It's with my mum and dad. See, my dad's normally one to not follow every single rule in the book, and but he's followed every single rule in the book about this coronavirus, partly because he is at risk. He's over 60. He's overweight, and he's a smoker. So,
Okay.
but then my mum, who's normally a bit of a goody two shoes, she hasn't been a goody two shoes during this. She hasn't really changed her lifestyle so much. So it is it's different, the people who have been sucker for the rules or not, but they are like you said, protecting your family. There are good reasons behind it all.
And but the thing with me is that with this virus, it's like take it all in perspective. Take it all in perspective. It's like Anastasia Palaszczuk, I don't know what dealings, what her stakes are in this, but there is less active cases between the border, including Tweed Heads, which they're the ones suffering the most from this. Like that, like there's actually literally a bollard, as you probably would have seen, that breaks off between Coolangatta and Tweed. Fuck, it's like Tweed Heads. There's no active cases there. The only two active cases in the Northern Rivers is that filmmaker that's in Byron that's had it for about the last. There's people like that I also feel for. Who's the
filmmaker?
I forget her name, but it's like she's had it for like 65 to 70 days. She thought she was cleared of it 2 or 3 times, and she can't shake it off.
Oh wow!
But it's people like that I'm also feeling for, but she's not come out of isolation. And then there's, I think, one other sort of newish case toward a bit further south down New Italy way. I could be wrong, but they're the only two. So you look at the concerns they say, because I mean, the whole issue that I've had since the test of time with this is this hasn't been taken in perspective. That you look at, I just feel that all the local places, all the regional areas, including Byron Bay, even though it's a tourist town, we're losing out because of Sydney and all the community transmission that's happening down there. So my take has always been from the start is to put like what they're doing up at the border up in Queensland, put a ring around between Sydney, Newcastle, Wollongong, that area, and because there's no one flying at the moment, and just separating that, and then opening maybe the border to say 200 kilometers south, and let shit happen. Because
I'll vote for you, Duane.
well, unfortunately, unfortunately, I don't have a stake in it at the moment. But I mean, it's but everyone's crying for it because it's. And then the thing is, I read some of these comments up in Queensland, and it's sort of 50-50. It's like you look at some people, I mean, let's put it another way, Shori. If you're a business owner, you're not cheering this thing on because they're losing somewhere in the $50 to $53 million a day with no tourism, and then they're being blocked off. I can assure you, if you're a business owner or you're an employee of a business owner, you're not cheering this thing on. If you're a friend of a business owner, you wouldn't be. You'd be obviously sympathetic. The people that are cheering on this lockdown are your 2%ers. It's basically your people that are in the public service. You just don't give a shit. They got a guaranteed wage, and more or less people that don't have jobs. That's
the doll's doubled.
Yeah, well, I mean that's just. That would be the only two kind of dynamics that are cheering this thing on. So, for me, just put it in perspective and let people have their businesses open.
Pubs are open Monday. Are we going to Are you working on Monday? We're going to go to the
I'll
pub
be
at 10 a.m.?
doing the business on Monday. It's the following Monday that we've got the long weekend, which is another thing I wanted to bring up is that I've been telling everyone around here in Byron Bay that more or less it's like enjoy the quiet time whilst we got it, because it's already now starting to pick up. And just to put in perspective too, as I said a few minutes ago, that this is as of this week, we are now seeing statewide travel or in New South Wales. So that means people can come from Victoria or people from Queensland can come here. And if you can't go to Queensland, you can't go overseas. Where is the one place that everyone's going to come to on the long weekend? We're standing right in front of it.
Yeah, but like you said, you're worried about business owners, so it'll be good for business owners.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Yep. Anyway, bloody coronavirus. It's all we've been talking about for months and months.
I know. But to just put on another perspective, now since you went away for a while, so you kind of missed the whole, you would have had one, like when you were living in Byron Bay, obviously you've come back from, came back and visited and whatnot. So you would have seen...
I generally come back once a year.
Yeah, so, well, in that case, you probably would have seen Byron gradually change over time. So you've seen it to just where it's just a quiet little beach town and everybody knew everybody, and you would not walk down, say, Johnson Street, even on a quiet day without bumping into someone that you knew. But now all of a sudden it's now changed to this, you look at it and nobody knows anybody. Hey?
Yeah, mega tourist town hotspot, but it's fun too. And you can, like, I'm moving to Mullumbimby, so Mullumbimby's got a lot of that charm, and you could move up to Bangalore, or you could go to, Pottsville or something to get those vibes. But yeah, Byron's grown up massive and brings some good things with it.
So, but what are your thoughts on like how it's all changed, Shory? It's like, for me,
mind, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a whole thing in perspective, and I was just talking about how like, ever since the Greens have run in this town since 2006, and I just think
it was before that, the Labor or Nats.
I didn't know if we had Nationals, but it was the Conservatives, whoever they were. It was probably a bit. Being a teenager, I think Greens came in when I was a teenager, so I didn't really have the strong grip on politics like I do now, but I certainly do now. But you look at it, and I just think this town for so long, and the way the Greens do things, they're having an each way bet with this town. And with me, it's like the one example is the paid parking. When you think paid parking, you think, what's the first thing that comes to your head when you think of paid parking, when you think on a location scale?
What's the first thing do I think? I think, is this annoying? How am I going to put the coins in?
Yeah, but I'm talking like more when you're location-wise. Where else would you see paid parking?
Don't know. On the street next to a car park?
Well, it's a city thing. It's a metropolitan. It's a very like, you go to the Gold Coast, right? And it's not even a Gold Coast thing. Surfers Paradise is the only place you really see it. And
no, they don't. Burleigh has it. Palm Beach has it. I was there today.
It's a very metropolitan kind of initiative. Now, it's not. And we could both certainly agree, it's not what you'd call the Byron Bay way, which is what they've tried to plaster. So basically, they want to keep Byron as it is, which is great. We'd all love that. But at the same time, when you're trying to cram tens of thousands for hundreds of thousands of tourists a year into this little town, we've got one road to get us, and it's not a very good road.
I went to a meeting at Chamber of Commerce. We get 2 million visitors a year.
Wow. Well, that's it. So it's not just hundreds of thousands.
No.
So 2 million a year. All right.
Yep.
And we've got one road that leads into the main part of town, off the highway. We know it too well. I call it the conga line. It stretches for kilometers. And so that's so when things like West Byron and all that come up, me personally, it's not a matter of do I me personally, would I want West Byron? I think it now needs stuff like that. It needs to happen.
Or do you have a vested interest in this?
Not at all. I just think it's because it needs to happen because this council
needs to happen, or just make the bloody road more congested.
Well, hang on. Well, let me finish. Let me finish about that. It needs to be infrastructure. Why do you look at places like the Gold Coast, which is a tourist spot like Byron Bay? Because they've got their shit in order. Like, they've got the roads, they've got the hotels, they've got the visitors coming in, and every time I go up there, it's not as much traffic as any normal. But when you look at, say, like, but that's what I'm trying to say about the whole Byron thing. They just cram you, as you said, 2 million tourists a year into a little town, and they just worry about the image of it. So you can only have it one or two ways. You could either have your 2 million people promote the shit out of it, like which is what you want to do. But with that comes, you've got to apply the fucking infrastructure. It's simple as that. So things like West Byron, which, if you have it like...
West Byron doesn't come with a new dual-lane carriageway that drops everyone off in town. There's no new road. It's just a couple of thousand houses.
But that would be the other kicker to it. I would suggest that if it has the extra roads, because you got to look at it. And if also the other thing, I wouldn't just say for extra, housing. Either you'd probably have like another estate like Sunrise, where you'd have another supermarket like a Coles or something. There's no Coles in Byron Bay, but that's again, and that's the thing that shits me, is that more or less it's okay. Well, let's not have Coles because Coles isn't very Byron Bay-ish, and let's not have Macca's or KFC.
Woolworths is.
That's what I mean. It's like but Woolworths has been around since test of time, so that's part of the furniture. They're not going to fuck that off, but more or less, it's more to do with the fact that it's all about employment and jobs. I remember when I was growing up, when I was 18 or 19, how hard it was then, and it's fucking a lot harder now to get a job in this town. To get a job at like a supermarket or a McDonald's or a KFC, and at times like this, rest assured, this is some of the things that need to be discussed to get this economy really up and going.
I don't know, you might be surprised at the amount of jobs going in Byron now, because it was done by so many international backpackers and whatnot, and they've all had to leave. There will be, I think there are more opportunities and jobs out there for locals now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the other thing too. Like, when I noticed that things got quiet in this town, a lot of businesses weren't relieving rent in this town as well. They were still retaining their rent prices, so I've heard. Not going to...
I went to lunch at Targa, the cafe restaurant, the other day.
Okay.
And I spoke to the owner there, and she said she got a 2-month pause in her rent and then a 50% reduction until December.
Well, that's good, because a lot of these businesses, I'm only guessing on that, because you'd think that, and I noticed with the exception of maybe one or two businesses, I think they reduced their food prices, but a lot of them increase their food by not just like $1 or $2 either. I'm talking like $5, $6, $7, and a lot of that was to do with you'd think the only plausible reason why you do that is because of the rent prices going up.
Yeah, my favorite restaurant, Duaneo, has now put I think it's like a $65 set menu. Shout out to Joey and the crew at Duaneo. They want, if you're in there taking up valuable space, they want to make sure you actually spend some bloody money in there so they can cover their costs.
I just, as I said, it's all a perspective thing for me, and I just think, obviously, Byron, this summer coming up, I think we're going to see I wouldn't say a drop, probably even an increase in tourism, but it'll be obviously a different demographic, because people that can't go overseas, can't go to Bali, they'll be coming down here. And
one other positive thing about the corona for Byron, because it's so profitable to have your house listed on Airbnb and get short-term rentals. Now that all the holiday market's gone, a lot of owners, a big complaint in Byron has been about affordable housing, but now that the owners they don't have the tourist income, that's dried up. They're shifting their properties back to the a long-term rental market, which is good for people who want affordable housing. I just bumped in. Guess who? I just bumped. Who's my new next-door neighbour? Kent, bloody Flatbicky Wright.
Kent. That'd be interesting.
So,
you're not going to get a wink. You won't get a wink of sleep when he's with his next door neighbour. I don't think you'll give each other any sleep, to be honest. I see his Instagram videos.
So he's just moved into a nice. Yeah, he's just moved into a nice place.
Spearsy? Is Spearsy there with him? They're peas in a pod, those two.
I just sort of can't. Okay. But he's found a nice place here that probably would have been on the Airbnb before COVID. So, pros and cons.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like just a bit of perspective on things, and things you tend to agree or disagree. But I mean, you just look at it and you think, well, stand for what you believe in, and the one thing that I think would be great for this town too is like a lot. And look, I'm not burying every backpacker that comes into this town, but there's been this issue where a lot of these backpackers don't pay their way in this town. They just try and. Oh. Well, I mean, the legal camping, like that's another thing. Yeah. Well, they don't. It's like you go down to where the market. I mean, when you go down to those market grounds, down at
Butler Street Reserve,
they use it it gets used for a toilet. It's been all over the place. I've got friends who live just not far off that area, and it's just a lot of them just don't pay their way. They go and rack up. And that's what they think when I was talking about the paid parking, they tried to do it so it allows people to pay, like the tourists. But the thing is, they don't. A lot of them, the majority of them, like they just ignore it. They get the fine, and they're out of the country before it even gets paid. So yeah, and I've seen that firsthand. And I've seen that firsthand.
Yeah, but on the backpackers, it's easy to bash them. They do also contribute to the charm of Byron Bay. What would the rent car park without a bunch of bongo circles and fire twirlers, Duane? Would you ever see it in the same light?
Well, I'd say use a car park what it's used for. Like the bike tracks here, we build bike tracks and they don't ever get used. People still riding on the side of the roads and but you know what I mean. It's
so you don't want car parks to be used for bongo circles and fire twirling?
They've got a whole lot of beach they can do that with. A whole landscape of beach. I've got Stretch Fast Brunswick heads, they can do that to their heart's content. But car parks are car parks, and that's the whole reason we've got a shortage of them as well. So you kind of just proved another point there, Mr. Shaw.
Who you got tipped for the football this afternoon? Because we are also in a tipping comp together.
Absolutely. I think.
And you're doing
I got Dragon. Hey, what?
Are you doing quite poorly in the tipping comp?
I think I'm level with you on this weekend.
Oh, well, this weekend there's 2 games, isn't there? 3.
Yeah, about that. Well, the Dragons are playing at the moment. I've tipped them, but I've got with absolutely no confidence whatsoever.
Just imagining that bloody Warriors are sick and sorry.
You know what the score is in that game at the moment?
I do. Do you?
No.
I'm just pulling it out now. Warriors 6-0 up over the Dragons. 11 minutes in. Here we go, baby.
Shit, I've got Raiders first to 10 in a multi, so
okay.
And I've been free from free like in first to 10s all this week. So I think, as I said, I just told you I'm not confident on the no. And the Warriors, they've been a little bit hard. Well, you look at it, the whole competition, the scale, they've just been the team that pulled out mass sacrifices to actually get this happening from before the coronavirus, shut down the competition after 2 rounds, then going over and then having to come to Tamworth to quarantine and then losing 2 or 3 of their top line players and then having to get a loan out to keep this competition happening. So that's why I thought, well, they might be a little bit underdone at the moment. But
they might be undone, but they might come out all guns blazing.
It might have, and that's the other thing too. They might this shit might get them motivated to go and do some great things. So there's that too, and it's because they didn't have a strong start in the first 2 rounds. They got Knights touched them up, and they got. Who did they play in the second round? Was it the Raiders? I think the Raiders took care of them and as well. So,
as they should.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Well, they're off to a good start. It doesn't do good for my TV betting at the moment. So that's the other
But
thing
we'll
about this.
see. It's only early in.
The other thing about this coronavirus, signing up for a fucking TV account, and it wasn't even just so much. It wasn't even
which you hadn't had before, right? You don't normally.
No, I mean, I don't know why. I just didn't think it was for me, but that's when there was no sport on. You sign up just to watch Sky Racing. So that's how bad there was no sport on, and that was even there's even question marks over that. But now that the real sport's happening, it's so yeah. I got, but I mean,
it's so good with fucking sport on, mate. And the pubs are opening on Monday. It's going to come back to normal. But absolutely. Yeah, it was amazing how much I did miss rugby league.
Yeah, I knew you would probably be the hardest hit, but
it's just such a nice thing to look forward to every weekend.
So with the whole thing about the footy and sports and stuff and all that coming undone, so we're talking about betting. I know, like when we were doing the footy together, that's what got you in with the Ladbrokes commercial. Pumping. I was going to get an app. See, I was always vehemently against sports gambling because all the boys. I also one of my two big sports are rugby league and motorbike racing, the MotoGP. So all the boys would always punt on the MotoGP, but I didn't like doing it because if I punted on that bloke, I wanted him to win. But then, end of the day, you just want a good race, and same with kind of rugby league, you want a good game. But yeah, I did get into it. I have ebbs and flows with it, if I like it or not. It's addictive when you get on a bit of a run and you're winning and you think you're beating the odds and you think you're really smart. Yeah. That's the fun part. But yeah, just that we are betting pretty small increments, me and you. So it's more about the thrill, $2, $3, $5. Do you want to have a look at, I was looking at my app last night because I was looking at my Fitbit. Yep. And I thought, is this the bourbon and cokes are doing it? Because my heart rate was 130 for a Roosters versus South game. I don't see those rates unless the Broncos are a couple of points either way. But it's because, as I said, we don't bet.
130 sitting still.
Yeah. Jesus. Well, I mean, because you got a 5-leg multi going on, and it's not even. Well, it's for me. like I should probably put some perspective on it, and the reason why, because I've been wanting to win a multi so bad. Yes. To put into perspective, because there's
what did your multi odds get up to?
Well, they were like 10-1, and I'm only betting $1. I mean, if you're betting more than $1 on a multi, that's more than 3 or 4 legs. You're crazy. And just put it mildly, but especially if it's me and my luck at the moment. But the thing is that I think it's more just to put in perspective that I've described this to you. There's 2 occasions. And the first one was, you go back to the first UFC pay-per-view that just came back. And I had, I thought I knew UFC well, but then it's basically just take your pick, because the fighter could be winning 4.5 rounds out of 5, and then he just gets clipped. And, then after that, running a multi off that could kill anything. But you look at the likes of, I had about 11, picked 11s, and I think they had odds of 80 odd to 1 or something like that. Just chucked $1 on, just no big deal. Wasn't expecting it to go as good as it did. And then halfway through, so this didn't exactly go to the very end, I'll admit, but I think it was about the 5th fight in for Fabricio Badoom. Let's put it this way. He lost by split decision. If one judge went the other way, because I won 4 before that, lost that one, and then I won the other 4 or 5 after that. So if one other judge had gone the other way, I would have been sitting pretty for an extra 80 odd to 1. So by one judge, and then the second one was in German Bundesliga in the soccer, and I just I think it was 10 legs or something. It was like 20 to 1 or something like that. Same sort of shit. I was 4 or 5 up. And then on the 5th leg, I think it was over under like a 1.5 or something like that. The goal was scored in the last minute to clear that 1.5, but then got overturned by my nemesis, the VAR. The video referee overturned it. So again, that was the only thing I missed out on, 20-1. So that's $100. Like, it's not so much losing money in my account because it's only $1 or so. It's what you could have won. And that's the thing about multis that was stressing me out, because that was the same deal with that Cowboys game last night. I had, I think I only cleared it on the last conversion when Valentine Holmes, I think it was to get the second half over the first half. And there was 20 points.
What position does Valentine Holmes
He played
play?
fullback last night.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you reckon Latrell went last night at fullback?
Oh, to be honest, as I said, I was paying more attention to my multis and seeing how he was playing.
And that's also
the other
why I
thing
don't like
too.
Sports gambling.
That's the other thing. It takes the. I mean, watching football should be fun. You know, it should be a fun thing,
exactly.
and it can make it more fun, but it also can take the fun of it. You're forgetting why you're watching it, and that was sort of the case last night, because I had a couple of legs of the cream. Baseball,
I want to put a question to you.
What's that?
Someone told me last night, but I'd like to fact check it because it came from a certain frogmouth pilchard, which we know is not that's Dane Johnston.
Yeah, go on.
Friend of ours.
Yeah, go on.
Friend.
This will be fun.
We're talking about they all fell asleep, or he fell asleep halfway through the football. So did Joel Chewy Chandler, because it's on too late. You know, they work with their hands. They're up early. Dane said to me, the reason they have the rugby league on at 8:30, at 8 o'clock at night till about 9:30, 10.
Yeah.
Is because you're not allowed to put sports gambling ads on the TV until 8 o'clock.
It
kind of makes sense.
But then that would defeat the whole purpose of having a 4:30 Sunday game. If you're talking free to air. Yeah. So heading back to what were we talking about? So we're talking about the sports gambling.
Yeah, and the footy. Last night, today, I'm going to do an update on the score. We've both got the Dragons tipped, but what's the live score now? Let's have a look. It's 23 minutes in. Warriors still up by 6.
Okay, so yeah, I can't believe I'm having to cheer on the Dragons. Right. But I have got tipped either team and one other multi, like either team winning by 12. So that's safe for the moment. So let's see how that one goes. Another little thing I wanted to share with you. So going back to the whole NRRL thing.
Yes.
I want you to put this in perspective, and I'm going to follow it up with something else. And we'll just bring this up here. We'll just see if we can do that. Just give me your thoughts on, just more so on your wardrobe. Final rematch, and whilst their finals also sort of hinge on what happened at Red Devil Park. How's it go with that? It's 22-18, Moolumba just in front after scoring.
I'm not sure.
22 answered points. So if Byron Bay somehow get their noses in front there, Shorey, Tweed Coast are going to have to play well to beat Coogin to get the 5th spot.
Good. See you again, Dwayne. Good afternoon, everybody at home. You're coming live from Ballina. As Tweed Coast kick off, you keep on mentioning the Devils game ahead.
So, more or less, you miss Byron that much?
Rick, because I was...
You said Byron?
First off, about the shirt. One of my heroes is Andrew Gibbs Moore. Have you seen what he wears? He wears some wild Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah.
Wild. The loudest, brightest, craziest shirts he can find. And he's a big fan. So I do listen to him a lot, and I reckon he's a gun commentator and a good radio presenter. So that's where I get that inspiration from. Yes, and I do sometimes wish. Where were we at that game? Was that Ballina?
Ballina versus Tweed Coast. Okay. All right, so just picking up. We've had some technical difficulties. We were talking about why you got such good taste in clobber when you come to football commentary. You're saying it's because you dress like a certain ABC commentator. I think it's probably more. I think it's probably more to do with the fact that as well as everything else that you do, Shorey, I think it would be natural, like some of your charisma, you'd be getting involved in the movie. So I was watching the latest movie from Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, The Irishman.
Yes.
Do you reckon that looks a bit someone that no? How about to fucking get up on that?
Well,
that's not you.
You may not know this about me, but I'm a big cigar guy.
Yeah.
And as my brother made comment the other day, I do like to wear my shirts unbuttoned like that as well.
But that I saw it. I mean, fuck me, that is true. So that's where you got it. So you want to start in The Irishman? That's what. Were you auditioning at that point?
No, I was not.
Okay.
No,
well,
but I do like a Cuban cigar and a floral shirt unbuttoned down so you can see my luscious chest hair.
Well, if nothing else that this podcast has done without the couple of fuck-ups we already had, we managed to show what a behind-the-scenes day in football commentary is with Michael Shaw, and now we get to get the idea of what a behind-the-scenes in the podcast as well.
Yeah. Oh, fuck, mate. I'm going to miss doing these calls at the footy.
We'll be back.
I can't wait to get back. I can't wait.
We'll be back.
It's just something you look forward to. Oh,
and,
mate, you look forward to every week. It's such a good thing to do.
In the meantime, even when we're doing the food, we've got this podcast now, and I'm thinking the next time we get back together, like I had this idea, and I might do this with Cross as well, because we did this last year. Like we could watch one of the old games and then reflect our memories back on it. And I'm thinking that, well, you know which one I'm going to bring up, don't you?
Oh, I certainly do.
Your first one, Northern United versus Kyogle. I think that's a must.
Who's getting the bronze statue made of them?
I don't know. We'll have to ask someone in Kyogle. Like,
what was his name? Sorry, Shane Walker.
Shannon Walker.
Shannon Walker. That's it.
If anyone needs to, if we need to just give you a bit of a reminder on how some certain memories, I had a few things I wanted to catch up on with you here. I think I might have actually lost it. Or have I?
Is Shannon Walker playing for Kyogle again?
Well, he didn't play a whole lot. Well, the thing is, Shannon Walker would have liked, every time I called one of Shannon Walker's games, and this is including when he played for Coogin in the semi-final, he scores a try every time, and he doesn't when I'm not. So
what he play? He was playing halfback?
He was he was playing in the centres, a bit of full. Okay. He was playing fullback on the day that we called him. Fullback, but we'll cover that in a podcast when we got a couple of hours to spare, because obviously the games go for a couple of hours. So anyway, now I've just found it. It's time I think we take a trip down memory lane of why this was your first ever game. Now hopefully this doesn't fuck up the freeze my computer back to like it was 1994 again. So this was the one way to bring up a debut. Check this out.
He's got the corner! Has he got it? You're going to be kidding me! Shannon Walker has quite surely won this game for the Kyogle Turkeys! The first time they've had the front, and that's the only time they need to be in front. Unbelievable scenes here in New Park. On the buzzer too.
My voice still hasn't come back after that.
Take a bow.
Like you said, the only time that led the game, and it's the only time that matters. Kyogle Turkeys 40, Northern United 38, which kicked the cup from the sidelines.
And as you can see here, Shannon Walker, if there's no bronze statue in front of New Park, they'll be building one tomorrow. They were down on 3 or 4 occasions, 14 points. 14 points in the first 10 minutes. Turkey. They had not been in front of anyone.
And who was filming that?
That would be Desi.
Oh, good.
I knew stats man, but I'm needing the Dragons at the moment. I was going to say we're at 4:00 here, so it's about second half in that Dragons. I need the Dragons to pull someone up like that now because they're down by 12 at the moment. So
12 down exactly.
Yeah.
45 minutes into the game.
Yeah. Okay.
So only 2 people in that
so
tip then.
me and Crossy have caught many games together. I've never had a game with him like that, and he's wanting one. And you get one on the first bounce. How did that make you feel? And we'll go into more depth in another podcast with about to wrap up here. But how did that all feel? Go all the way out? Because let's be fair, I didn't have that. I thought this game will be all right, but it was still the best game ever called.
Well, it was one of I'd been in China for 12 years. I obviously grew up playing rugby league. I didn't really follow the NRL while I was in China or
and
the
you don't
local
have a team.
league.
I
don't have a team in the NRL, but I love the sport. And so coming back from China after all those years, what I really loved and what I found was the real, I could see what's, uniquely Australian and country Australia and bush and stuff like that. So for me, going out to those regional rugby league games, it's just so special because I played at a lot of these grounds as a kid growing up. We played against Kyogle Turkeys, and I remember we had memories. Kyogle, one of the biggest, toughest team, under 14s would play against a bloke, and he's a second rower, and he's built like a brick shithouse, and he had stubble beard, and he had 2 kids on the sideline watching him, like his own kids, and they're all these mythical creatures. So, and then obviously I can't play because I've got bloody busted knees.
Yeah,
but so just going out there and calling that, it was, I
remember actually when you said busting, I actually remember you did that in the under-18s, playing for Byron. And
that was the second time. I did it first under-16s, playing for Mullumbimby Giants.
Yeah, I remember that actually.
Then, so that was the first reconstruction. And then I came back for under-18s. I didn't do a right physio. I felt a little tweak before the game. I shouldn't have played, but I was itching to play so bad.
Yeah.
Got a kick off the kickoff.
Yeah.
Caught it on the full. First hit up, bam, knee's gone again.
And you were just iterating about Kyogle because I played out there and that ground is hard as concrete. So their players and I just think how much they fucking love the game out there. It's religion.
It was a great crowd.
It is it's a friggin' religion out there, and I've been on the wrong ends of it being I guess you could say a former Byron Bay supporter, although they'll be here. But I've been out to semi-final stuff, and they make you feel this big. And you remember that a certain game that we did when we went out there and back out there on a Saturday night, we did the Kyogle Byron game, and then there was a bit. We won't go into it now, but a bit of controversy.
Yes.
And then I came back out to Kyogle the next week to do a game at Tamara's Brothers, and I thought they had the fucking pitchforks there coming. They just said, "What did you say this?" And I said, "Well," so then I got one of their guys to come and call me just to smoke the peace pipe a bit. But in all seriousness, they love their sport out there, and a lot of these country towns, and it's so special. And that's what we love about, especially me. That's what we love about, and that's what makes us want to do this week in and week out, just for moments like that. And but I'm looking forward to whenever the next time that might be. You'll be there right beside me wherever we're going to do it, and we keep going with this podcast. All right, so I know I know you got footy to watch and whatnot, so we'll wrap it up right there. But Shuri, as I said, you're the perfect first guest, the best guest.
Thank you.
And there'll be many more.
Everyone out there, go search Inertia Wave Australia on Instagram and Google. INERTIA WAVE. That's the hottest new fitness product. So go out there, check it out. I'll give you if you message me on Instagram, I'll give you a discount code as well.
You heard the man. Head out to that, and with the podcast here, listen to, if you want to listen to this in audio format, go to anchor.fm/Duaneo, and the link is to the YouTube page if you're not already on there. Otherwise, follow us on Instagram on the bio. The link will be in the bio for the YouTube page. And do all that, link and subscribe, spread the word. I want to get more than just my nearest and dearest following it. So head on out there and support this film because it means a lot to us, and we just want to spread the good news that is coming out of this part of the world. Shuri, absolute pleasure, mate, as always. Cannot wait to do this again with you. And probably the next time we will reflect more in detail with that game we did out of Kyogle in that sunny day in April.
Thanks, Nev. Great to be on here. Honoured to be your first guest.
Yeah.
As always, I look forward to riding with you, brother.
Yeah, and the next show, episode 2, whenever I think that we'll hopefully have that by next week, I'll be none other than joined by Chad Ellis from Crisis to Collapse. He's the Axeman out there doing the business, touring the nation, soon to be the world once the borders open back up. And he's just started a new band. I've been called Their Faith and Lies. I had to listen to it yesterday, and if you love As I Lay Dying and Kill Switch Engage, which I think you got me into back in the day, back in high school, Shorey, you got to check him out. So I'll be having an in-depth chat with him coming up next on the Duane-o Podcast. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. I'll see you next week. Ta-ta. And